Hello and welcome to attaQ. My name is Jakob, and if you're not interested in mobile music production, which is the main content of this channel, then do not subscribe. Now, with that said, if you want to know why I'm so enamored with the Unisync hubs, just keep watching. What you're seeing here on the table is a normal everyday work situation for me. It's everything I need to do any of my work, whether it's video editing or if it's me just recording my narration like I'm doing now or doing any type of research. I've got an ugly looking cable coming from my modem connecting me to the internet through the Ethernet port. I've also got a passive USB-A port that I'm using to add more ports to the hub, where I've got a dongle for my ancient wireless mouse and also one of my SSD drives connected to it. Normally, when I back up my stuff, I'll have more than just one SSD drive or a flash drive connected to it, but it is my main work SSD, so it's not being used for storage, it's more being used for temporary storage, so I'm offloading maybe big video files on it as I'm working with videos. On top of that, I've got a professional sound interface connected to my hub. And whenever I'm working with either making music or doing sound design, I always need a MIDI keyboard. And I've got a NanoKey Studio connected to the USB-C side of the Unisync hub. Lastly, I've got an old PC monitor connected through a D-sub to HDMI converter connected to the HDMI output on the hub. And I use this whenever I work with videos to look at the rendered output of my video. And all of this is stuff that I have connected at all times to the hub, and it works perfectly. And I also got to highlight that the hub really never gets uncomfortably hot. It gets kind of like lukewarm. It's really good at expelling heat. And that is a very important thing, and I'll talk more about that later in the video. Now, as a bit of a boomer pushing 50, I was browsing Facebook and I came across an ad for Unisync hubs. And when I saw their ribbed aluminum cases, all in black, I fell in love with them. So I checked up their specifications for the hubs and I decided to get in contact with the company that turns out is actually based right here in Stockholm. So, first of all, I was, after our meeting, given a bunch of stuff from them. 2 hubs, a bunch of cables, and also a power brick. I didn't pay a single dime for any of this gear that I'm gonna show you. And our agreement was the same that I have with any company. I take the stuff home, I test it for as long as I like to confirm that it is as good as you're saying. And when or if I make my video, the company has no say in what goes into it. And they were more than happy to work with me within those conditions. Now, I also want to disclose that I'm probably positively biased towards the company because I actually like the people I talk to. And I also like their company philosophy. They care a lot about robust design, how your gear needs to last, and how hubs need to have good heat dissipation, and many other little details you'll find out about if you just keep watching. One thing that is really important when you're browsing Unisync's products is that they do make a lot of portable hubs that are compatible with laptops and desktop computers. However, only 2 hubs in their lineup are actually compatible with the iPad and iPhone. And it's the version 3 8-port one and also 4-port one. And we're gonna have a look at the 8-port one for now. Now, we'll start by actually going through all of the inputs and outputs of the hub. And after that, I want to talk about some stuff that some people might feel are missing from the hub. And lastly, I want to highlight some really strong features of this hub. Now, it takes the power input through a USB-C power delivery port that is rated to up to 140 watts, which is more than enough if you wanted to use this thing with your laptop, for instance. Now, this port on the side here is being used then to connect the hub to whatever device you want to connect to, smart tablet, smartphone, or laptop or desktop computer. And I'll tell you what this little screw hole is for when we get to the important highlights of this hub. Now, if we have a look on this side, we got 3 USB-C connectors. They're version 3.0, so they're rated up to 5 gigabits per second. Now, on the other side, we have two USB-A 2.0 ports, so they're rated at 480 megabits. And right next to those, we've got an HDMI port rated for 4K up to 60 Hertz. And lastly, on this side, we've got a LAN connector rated to up to 1 gigabit per second, and next to it, we've got a Kensington lock port. As you can see, the hub has all the necessary features of a modern portable hub, but there are some features that might feel as if they are missing from the hub for some of you, and I've got some solutions for you. The first thing I want to say is that if you need more USB-A or USB-C ports, you can always extend the port amount by getting a passive USB-A or USB-C hub. The only thing that is important is that whenever you're adding more stuff to your setup, it's going to require more power, so make sure that your power block is big enough. I'll talk more about that later on. Alright, so one thing that might strike you is that this hub doesn't have any card slots, so no SD card input or anything like that, because society is moving towards using stuff like SSD or NVMe drives. And so you don't really need to move SD cards around anymore. But if you still need something like that, you could get an external card reader that has all of the types of cards that you could possibly have. Maybe you're dealing with older samplers or something like that. Then I do recommend getting one of those things instead. I still have one of those. It's about 15 years old and it still works. Now, if you're into wireless headphones or headsets, then you're not going to have this issue, but I do understand that a lot of you might be concerned about the lack of a headphone port, especially if you're traveling with this hub. Well, there's a really easy solution to this. This port has both USB-A inputs and USB-C inputs, and there's a good chance you already own a little dongle like this. And if you don't, they don't cost much. You can get them on Amazon and just slot it in and you have a headphone port. Now, if you're a hi-fi nerd and you're really concerned about having good audio, then I would suggest you get one of those dongle USB DACs, like the FiO ones. And finally, if you're a sound designer, beat maker, or music producer, well, you might be using some old school studio boomer cans, and those need more power, so you could invest in a professional studio DAC with headphone correction like the Arc-on-Ear, which is what I'm using when I'm traveling. And when I'm back home at base, well, I already have a professional sound interface with 2 headphone ports on it. Number 1, my multi-port docking hub needs to have a detachable cable. I don't recommend getting a USB hub where you cannot detach the cable because they have a tendency to break the same way, and you end up with an expensive pile of trash. And so if the hub has a detachable cable, if that cable breaks, well, you just switch it out and you don't have to switch out the hub. Now, the Unisync hub does have a detachable cable, so that is a very good plus, but they've decided to take it a bit further. You can see that there's a screw hole, and it's for a security screw. And if we look at the cable that comes with the hub, we can see that it has a thumb screw right there. Now, this is a good idea, but the thumb screw is positioned in a way where it's very hard to get at with your fingers if you don't have micro-sized hands. Now, Unisync told me that they are in the process of redesigning this feature, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it because all you need is a small flathead screwdriver. Don't overdo it so you end up with the cable sticking up at an angle. You want it to be kind of straight, and after that, well, that cable is not going to come out unless you unscrew that screw. And here, Unisync has taken it even further when it comes to the cable itself that delivers with the hub. You see, a cable like this, not only does it deal with high-speed data delivery, it also needs to be able to provide the device it's connected to with a lot of power. And all of those little things it needs to do makes it so that the cable ends up being thick and usually awkward and stiff to handle. Especially if it's short, it can even create stress points on the port side of the device you're connected to. And this can also end up breaking your port because of that stress point. And here I want to highlight something that Unisync did really well, because even though this cable is thick, it is not hard to manage. It is not stiff at all. In fact, it's incredibly soft, softer than many other cables I've come across. And it's also very, very light, meaning it won't create that stress point on the device side. Next up, it's got very good heat dissipation. You see, all of the electronics and all of the ports are housed within a robust ribbed aluminum case. And this is something that Unisync told me they worked hard on, because they also offer their hub line in the Middle East, where the climate is very, very hot. So you need your hubs to be able to dispel that heat effectively. And the ribbed aluminum case was designed to do just that. It lifts the hub off the table and creates air channels to let the hot air also flow out from underneath the hub. For those that don't know, if you are using a hub and you are copying loads of data and at the same time also using an external monitor, which is using the HDMI output, well, that thing actually has its own processor working on outputting that image, and that thing will get very, very hot. And so you want that heat to dispel into the atmosphere, which this case is really good at. I've had many sessions where I've had the external monitor running and I've got a full set, with the sound interface. I'm also copying or moving files or editing from off a hard drive. And I've been accidentally touching the hub whenever I've reached over for something, and I've been surprised over how lukewarm the hub is. Yeah, it's definitely colder to the touch than many other hubs that I've tried in the past. Now, another thing I enjoy when companies do is when they don't glue their stuff together so you can actually take it apart without destroying it. And this hub lets you do that. It's got 4 screws, but you only need to remove the 2 on the host and power side. And once you have them out, you attach your USB-C cable, you screw in the thumb screw. Once it's tightened down, you just simply grab it and pull it straight out. Now, I had to use my shirt for this because I got slippery fingers, and it's stuck pretty hard in there. Now, once you get it out, the circuit board and all of its stuff just slides on out, and you can have a look at it. Now, I don't recommend you do this if you don't know what you're doing, but I deal with electronics on a daily basis. I build my own synthesizers and stuff, so I'm not too worried. Electronic stuff needs power in order to run. Not only do you need to power the hub itself and all the USB peripherals that you're connecting to the hub, you also need enough power to charge your device that the hub is connected to. And as you keep adding more USB peripherals to your setup, you're going to need more power, and I usually recommend laptop chargers because they're usually built really well and they're built to last. Now, being so intrigued by Unisync and their products and finding out that they also do laptop chargers, well, I just had to try one of them out. Right now, they're offering 2 laptop chargers, one rated for 65 watts and the other one rated for 100 watts. And for the longest of time, I've been using an 85-watt charger in my studio, but it turns out that I actually don't use enough gear to justify that amount of power. So I went for the 65-watt one because I think that's enough for my studio. But it's not the only reason I chose that one. It is also tiny and very portable, and it has a very neat function built into it where you can, after you've wrapped the USB-C cable around the unit, you can kind of like pinch it down and hold it to the charger. I think that's a very neat little thing. Now, again, 65 watts might not be enough for everybody, and if you're using MIDI controllers, big MIDI controllers with a lot of pads on them, a lot of lights and LEDs that do light shows and stuff, well then Unisync also offers a 100-watt laptop charger too. The only downside with a charger like this though is that the USB-C cable is permanently attached, so you can't remove it like you can with other chargers. Yeah, I really do prefer it when you can remove a potentially damaged cable and switch it out for a new one. It's just a better overall deal. But I'll keep testing this because, so far I've only had it for 2 months and I really don't know how well it's gonna fare in a year or so. Can you connect it to an iPhone? Yes, but you're going to need this adapter, because it lets you charge your phone at the same time. There is no PD charging or anything through that USB port. It's just through this port you can charge your phone. So after you have that adapter, you then need a new cable, a cable with USB-C on one end and USB-A on the other end for the adapter. Once you've got that connection, you're ready to go. You will end up with really messy dongle hell situations like this, but most of it works except from the HDMI output. It won't work in a setup like this. If you want HDMI output from your phone, unfortunately, you're gonna have to buy one of these stupid dongles from Apple. If I sound frustrated, I apologize, but I am frustrated because I've been testing these Lightning things for over a decade and I'm sick and tired of them. USB-C is a much better port to deal with when it comes to connecting to anything, because you don't have to consider MFI certification, even though Apple actually offers that type of licensing also to companies. In the end, if you want to connect a USB-C or a USB-A hub to your iPhone, go get this adapter, make sure it's an original one, and you'll be good to go. I want to start out by saying that I really had to dig deep and find some pocket lint in order to criticize these hubs, because there's really not much for me to complain about. First up, the connector on the cable. It's thick. I had to cut a big hole in my case for my iPad. I really had to snip off some material there to make this fit. However, I also have to commend Unisync for this. Check this out. There's no gap. Now, to be honest, my next bit of criticism is not something that really bothers me, but it might bother some of you, so I'm just gonna lift it. The case is slippery. I mean, it's an aluminum case, so it slides around. There's no rubber feet on it or anything like that. It doesn't really bother me because as soon as you connect a bunch of cables up to it and stuff, it's gonna stick in place. Yeah, I feel like I'm grasping at straws here with my critique. Now, lastly, I do wanna lift the USB speed. Right now, the USB-As are locked at 2.0, so 480 megabits. And let me tell you, this is enough for when you're connecting something like a MIDI controller, a MIDI pad controller, a keyboard controller, or any other type of MIDI controller. It's even fine for when you've got synthesizers, drum machines, and groove boxes that are class compliant and give you maybe MIDI or both MIDI and audio over USB. You can still work on that old, slower USB connection. However, when it comes to doing work like transferring big files, or when you are editing videos and you're working on an external SSD or NVMe drive, well, the old protocols just won't do it for you. That's way too slow. You need the higher protocols. And even though the USB-C ports on this hub are rated at USB 3.0 and give you 5 gigabits per second, you should be fine with this hub, which is also why I highly recommend it to people who are using similar setups like myself. Now, we will probably see Unisync produce a version 4 type 8 port hub in the future, where they're using the USB generation 3.1 or 3.2 protocol on their 8-port hub. But if you don't want to wait for that, they do have a smaller 4-port hub out, and that one actually does use those USB protocols. I've had such a hub in my possession for as long as I've had the other hub, and I've been testing them both. And I must say that the 4-port version hub is of the same quality as the 8-port version hub. I would even take all of the nitpicky critiques that I pointed towards its bigger sister. Well, I would point it to that smaller hub too. However, I would also highlight that the cable that delivers with the smaller hub is shorter than the one for the bigger hub, but it is not short enough to cause a problem. So I would still say that the length of the cable is very acceptable. And that's pretty much it for as long as the critique goes. And as you can see, it's not much critique. It's basically me again praising something else that Unisync did. I'm completely sold on what they're doing here, and I think they're moving in the right direction. I like the way that they're thinking, and I highly recommend these hubs, including the 65 watts laptop charger that I also tried here. Now, there is one thing I didn't talk about yet, and it is this USB-C cable. It's magnetic, and it kind of wants to stay in a certain shape. Now, this one is way stiffer than the other cables I've shown you here, so it kind of goes against my feelings of what a good cable should be, you know, soft and easily manageable and light and stuff. But it's a pretty cool thing that it rolls up like this, and it's perfect for anyone who want a portable USB-C cable. Not bad. You will be able to find a link to Unisynk's site, unisync.se, down in the pinned comment if you want to go get yourself a really nice USB-C hub, or maybe some cables, maybe a laptop charger. Yeah, the link is down there in the pinned comment. And also, thank you Unisync for setting me up with all of this gear and also responding so quickly to all of my support questions that I had. I'll be keeping an eye on you for the future because I'm interested in seeing what else you might be making. A few years ago, I did a series of videos in where I was looking or hunting for a really good USB-C docking hub. And I found one eventually. There's an entire playlist of videos in where you can see how badly it went at the beginning and how I managed to find a really good one with a detachable cable, because that was one of the #1 reasons that I ended up with that hub, because of that detachable cable. Because all the previous hubs I had before it broke on the cable side. Well, the one that I found that was the perfect one has served me for many years now, and I still think it's a good hub. However, it only has USB-A ports on it. And now that the music tech industry that are making synthesizers, drum machines, groove boxes, MIDI controllers are finally catching up and now making USB-C a standard on all their gear, it makes sense to upgrade my main USB hub to one that has USB-C ports on it. So that was the #1 reason I've been looking for something like that. And not only that, people have been asking me to review such a hub, but back when I made that series, there weren't really that many hubs that had USB-C ports on them, that also had detachable cables and all of that stuff that I need. So finding the Unisync hubs was perfect right now. Yeah, so for those of you who have waited years and years for me to do such a video, well, I finally found a product that deserves such a video. And that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching my video, and thank you for pressing that thumbs up. Not because you're making me feel good, but it makes you feel really good, even if you hate me, especially if you hate me. Thank you to all of you patrons who have stuck with me through really hard times, and thanks to all of you in my audience for just being here. As usual, I wish you a very productive week. Now go finger all of your stuff and have a lot of fun doing it.